and we can start whenever you're ready, Jason. Thanks, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. I'm calling this meeting to order at 9:38 a.m. My name is Jason Whooper. I am Vice Chair of the City of San Diego Commission for Arts and Culture Public Art Committee. I would like to acknowledge up front that Commissioner Ben Meza has resigned from the commission on good terms with a significant uptick in responsibilities at his firm and lacking the time for committee and commission duties. On behalf of the commission, I wish Commissioner Meza all the best. I will be filling in for Commissioner Meza until further notice. With that said, we are going to do a quick roll call to confirm committee member attendance. When I call your name, please unmute yourself and say present. Linda Caballero Sotelo.
Present.
Anthony Graham.
Present.
Melinda Guillen.
Present.
Larry Herzog.
Present.
Woon Jung Park.
Present.
Commissioner Doreen Chandran.
Present.
Tiffany Y. Ying Perez.
Present.
Thank you. Your attendance has been noted. Also joining us today is Commission for Arts and Culture staff, including Chief of Civic Art Strategies, Christine Jones, Senior Public Art Manager, Chuck Miller, and Civic Art Project Manager, Dr. Laura Bullock. Before we get into today's agenda, I'm going to call on Chuck Miller to run down some of the guidelines for today's meeting. Chuck?
Thank you, Commissioner Whooper. A reminder that this meeting is a Zoom webinar and members of the public may join the meeting as webinar attendees to provide virtual non-agenda and agenda comment in real time. A reminder to note the buttons on the control bar at the bottom of the Zoom window to mute and unmute and turn the camera on and off. Please remember to stay muted when you're not talking and to unmute yourself when you speak. Please keep the chat window open at all times. As you'll be using the chat to signal when you'd like to speak, please refrain from using the hand raising indicator and instead type speak in the chat window for the record, and the chair will acknowledge requests in order. And finally, reminder to please refrain from using the meeting chat for anything other than signaling that you'd like to speak in order to comply with the Brown Act. Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. We're going to move on to agenda item number 2, non-agenda public comment. We will now move on to non-agenda public comment. I apologize. The public was invited to submit public comment on agenda and non-agenda items via a web form accessible through the agenda and the commission's website. Members of the public may also join this meeting as webinar attendees. If members of the public have submitted comments in writing via the web form, staff will read aloud public comment submitted per city public comment protocol. I will call on Chuck to read aloud any non-agenda public comment or to call on any attendees who would like to provide comment. Chuck?
Thanks, Commissioner Whooper. So there was no non-agenda public comment submitted in writing to those members of the public in attendance. If you click the hand raise button now to provide comment, I will allow you to speak and you'll have 3 minutes. Is there any comment, non-agenda comment? I am seeing none.
Thank you. Seeing none, we will move on to agenda item number 3, chair's reports, subsection A, commission business. As there were no action items for November's commission meeting, I have nothing to report at this time. I do appreciate your willingness to meet at an alternate time this month. Thank you for your commitment and flexibility. Finally, I'd like to take this opportunity as well to further acknowledge former Chair and Commissioner Ben Meza. It has been a pleasure to work with Commissioner Meza over the past several years, and his sage leadership will be sorely missed. Subsection B, we have an action item, November 5th, 2021, Public Art Committee meeting minutes. I hope everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from the November 5th, 2021 meeting. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes as they are? If you would, please type speak on the chat window, and when I call on you, verbally state your name and make your motion. We now have a motion. Let me acknowledge Tiffany Y. Ying Beres.
Yes, my name is Tiffany Wying Barris. I move to approve the November 5th, 2021 minutes as written.
Okay. And do we have a second? Larry Herzog?
Sorry, second the motion.
Thank you. We now have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If you would like to speak, please type speak on the chat window. Seeing none, now we will take a vote. I will call your name and you will respond out loud with yay, nay, or abstain. Remember that you do not need to have been present at the November meeting to vote or discuss. Linda Caballero Sotelo.
Yay.
Anthony Graham.
Yay.
Melinda Guillen.
Yay.
Larry Herzog.
Yay.
Jung Park.
Yay.
Commissioner Doreen Schunbrun.
Yay.
Tiffany Y. Ying Beres.
Yay.
And my vote is a yay. Thank you. Chuck, please read any public comment for this item that was submitted in writing and call on any attendees who would like to provide comment for this item.
No comment submitted in writing. And if members of the public in attendance would like to provide comment, please press the hand raise button now. I am seeing none.
Thank you, Chuck. We're going to move on to action item number 4, artist selection panelist for Fire Station 48 Black Mountain Ranch Public Art Project. Chuck, please provide an overview of the project and the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner Whooper. So the Fire Station 48 Black Mountain Ranch Public Art Project, or the fire station rather, will comprise a new permanent 11,500 square foot fire station located at Carmel Valley Road and Wine Creek Road in Black Mountain Ranch, and will serve the Black Mountain Ranch community. Black Mountain Ranch is a recently developed suburban community in the northeastern part of San Diego. Historically, much of the territory was agricultural. New developments in the area include homes, schools, shopping centers, and community parks. The territory is notable for its hilly, rugged terrain and abundant open space. Next slide, please. So the artist contract for design, fabrication, transportation, and oversight during installation by the city is $165,000. The artist will create a permanent artwork that responds to the unique context of the fire station. The RFQ is open to artists authorized to work in the United States, and artists apply by submitting qualifications. A 5-member ad hoc selection panel will evaluate applications and recommend one artist for contract award. And construction is tentatively expected to be completed by the end of 2024. So the recommendation today is to recommend to the commission approval of the following panelists for the Fire Station 48 Black Mountain Ranch Public Art Project: 1 Public Art Committee member and an alternate PAC member. Jessica McCambly for the seat of the visual art design professional with recommended alternates in no particular order, and those alternates are listed in the staff report, to serve as 2 of the 5 ad hoc artist selection panelists. Jessica McCambly is an artist based in San Diego. She earned her MFA in painting and drawing from the University of North Texas College of Visual Arts and Design, and is a professor of art at Miramar College. McCambly's work has been exhibited at various galleries and institutions, including Kenice Barnes Fine Arts, Holly Johnson Gallery, 500X, Helmuth Projects, and the Dallas Contemporary. Her work was selected for inclusion in both the Museum of Contemporary Art San Diego's Here Not There, San Diego Art Now, and Women in Abstraction at the Cornell Museum of Fine Arts. In addition, McCambly's work was featured in New American Paintings, juried exhibitions in print, number 109 Pacific Coast issue. McCambly is represented by commercial art galleries, Kenice Barnes Fine Art and the Orange Advisory. That is it for the staff report on that item. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay.
I actually do have a question, but it's not necessarily around the panelists or that vote. It's more about the list of requirements for the artists or the collaboratives that will be outreach to. Should I hold that question for later, or how do you want to deal with that?
I prefer
I
you
think-
ask it now since you raised it.
I think
Okay.
we can address it now.
Perfect. So one of the requirements that I heard was that the artist, and you may want to read that back, maybe it's just clarification, is allowed to work in the United States or something to that effect?
Yes, author or artist authorized to work in the United States. So basically, or international artists can work on the projects. They would just need their country's version of a W-9, basically.
Got it. I think it's a little confusing, that part, because it gives the impression that you're going to be an employee of the city or of the contract, which is not the case. They're independent contractors. So it's really, I think that needs clarification on that language. Otherwise, you will eliminate any international artists or binational or et cetera.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that note.
And I would just
And
add that there
we'll
is typically clarifying language in the request for qualifications
Right.
called for artists to help explain that further. So we'll look at that language and make sure that is clarified.
Good question. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. I will now ask if there are any volunteers from Public Art Committee members to fill one of the 5 selection panel seats for the Fire Station 48 Public Art Project. We will also need 1 alternate in the event that those who volunteer are unable to serve. Are there any volunteers? Okay, Unjung Park.
I'll volunteer.
Okay. Thank you. Tiffany Wying Perez.
Sure, and I can serve as the alternate.
Thank you for that. Would anyone like to make a motion to advise the commission to recommend the following panelists for the Fire Station 48 Mountain Ranch Public Art Project? We have Unjung Park with Tiffany Wying Beres as the alternate, and Jessica McCambly for the seat of the visual art design professional with recommended alternates in no particular order to serve as 2 of the 5 ad hoc artist selection panelists. If you would, please type speak on the chat window and verbally state your name and make your motion. Anthony Graham.
My name is Anthony Graham, and I move to recommend to the commission the approval of these panelists for the Fire Station 48 Black Mountain Ranch Public Art Project.
Thank you. Would anyone like to second that? Please type speak on the chat window and verbally state your name and second. Melinda Guillen.
Hi, Melinda Guillen, and I second the motion.
We now have a second. Pardon, we now have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If you would like to speak, please type speak on the chat window and you will be called in the order your request comes in. Nobody? Okay, now we will take a vote. I will call your name and you will respond out loud with yay, nay, or abstain. Linda Caballero Sotelo,
Yay.
Anthony Graham,
Yay.
Melinda Guillen, did we lose Melinda Guillen? Okay, Larry Herzog,
Yay.
Woon Jung Park,
Yay.
Commissioner Doreen Schonbrun,
Yay.
Tiffany Y. Ying Beres,
Yay.
and my vote is a yay. Chuck, please read any public comment for this item that was submitted in writing and call on any attendees who would like to provide comment for this item.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Whooper. No comments submitted in writing. Members of the public in attendance, if you'd like to provide comment, press the hand raise button now. I'm seeing none.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number. Oh, wait, pardon. Agenda item number 5, a presentation of the summary of temporary project for the Park Social Initiative. I would like to call on Chuck to provide the summary presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner Whooper. Could we go to the next slide, please, Laura? At this point, this committee is well aware of the parameters and goals of the Park Social Initiative. Laura, is there a issue with the PowerPoint? Oh, okay. Here we go. Sorry, thanks. So as I was mentioning, over the course of the past several months, we've kind of given you an introduction on this initiative. So you're well aware of the parameters and goals of the initiative, so I won't go into a lot of detail about that up front. The purpose of this presentation today is to provide a concise, comprehensive overview of the initiative as a whole. Now that this committee has had a chance to hear from all 18 of the commissioned artists and artist teams, and all of the artists are actively working to develop their projects, and we are checking in here to share progress. So next slide, Laura. and one more click. So this is what where we are at present, if this slide rings a bell in your head from previous meetings. Next slide, please. So the way I'd like to start today is by reminding everyone of the geographic structure of the initiative. 18 artists were commissioned, determined by the metric of 2 artists per 9 council districts. The exploration zones that the artists were working in are synonymous with the boundaries of the council district. Next slide, please. So this map shows the rough distribution of projects throughout the city. You might notice more than 1 pin per council district, as many of the projects will take on multiple iterations in different parks throughout the district. And on that note, the diversity of approaches to the projects is worth noting. The initiative will comprise everything from temporary sculptures and interactive installations to performances that are iterated and adapted to multiple park sites, to protracted programs of exploration, intervention, and engagement with culminating events, to site-specific and audience interactive dance performances, to community-involved mini festivals. So the way this is going to work today is I'm going to provide a brief synopsis of each project by order of council district. So we will start with Council District 1. Next slide, please, Laura. So the artists that are working in Council District 1 are Roberto Salas and the art collective Art Builds. Next slide, please. So Roberto Salas is a multidisciplinary visual artist and musician whose work addresses a wide breadth of traditional and experimental approaches. Salas connects with his native roots through his art. He uses his passion for global travel and study of diverse art and culture as an influence for his art. Salas has been producing projects in the San Diego region in collaboration with communities for a generation now. Tribute to Paleteros consists of essentially popsicle-shaped signs mounted on Telspar poles, so functioning similar to kind of glorified road signs. Each one has a rainbow of colors, reflective with lights and featuring laser cut images. Salas's inspiration was thinking about how paleteros, or popsicle vendors, distributing desirable treats and creating everlasting memories for park goers. Next slide, please. So Art Builds, the project is called Disc World, which will be at Ellen Browning Scripps Park in La Jolla. Art Builds is a collective that was founded in 2019 and creates large format temporary installations that make people stop, smile, and engage. Their core team is based in San Diego and together have decades of experience in large format sculpture, design, engineering, lighting, electronics, structural analysis, and more. Disc World is a sculptural installation consisting of multiple mirrored columns with individual rotatable segments. Each column is about 6 feet tall and 1 foot wide. Park visitors will be able to rotate these segments to change how the piece looks, causing it to bend and wiggle in interesting ways. Art Builds was particularly interested in the ways these reflections will change how people both see themselves and their surroundings in the park. So moving on to District 2, the artists working in District 2 are Margaret Noble and David White. Next slide, please. So Margaret Noble's interdisciplinary work, or Margaret Noble's project is called Lock Groove, anticipated for Plumosa Park in Point Loma. Margaret Noble's interdisciplinary work resides at the intersection of sound, sculpture, and performance, and often assumes the form of interactive sculpture and installation. Noble's work is influenced by the dynamic music cultures of Southern California that flourished from the 1980s to the 1990s. Locked Groove is a looped audiovisual experience that traces and morphs along the entire curb edging of Point Loma's Plumosa Park. So the patterns you see here will be are a rhythmic visual design using temporary chalk pigments And based on conceptual ideas about life rhythms divided into 4 themes: domestic, social, industrial, and natural. And so they kind of act as graphic scores along the curb. Audiences can augment their experience by engaging with the digital devices to open a web-hosted multi-channel sound mixer. So each of the designs corresponds to a different score that can be engaged with interactively. Next slide, please. David White, whose project is called Essential San Diego, anticipated for Kate Sessions Park in Pacific Beach. David White is an artist and educator whose work examines issues of urban development and how aesthetic and cultural forms can be used in this process. Often his work unfolds through collaborative projects that examine the urban and architectural conditions that mold civic spaces and public engagement. Essential San Diego is a temporary installation of a pair of scenic overlook style binoculars of the kind often found in high tourism areas. As viewers look into these binoculars, expecting to see images of faraway landscapes, significant architecture, and other scenic highlights, they are instead greeted by video vignettes of everyday workers who make the city of San Diego run. These videos are played on a VR device hidden in the overlook binoculars, as if the binoculars are now functioning as X-ray lenses into the heart of the city. So so moving on to District 3, the artists working in District 3 is the art team Mario Torero and Sarah Bella Mondragon and Timothy Murdoch. Next slide, please. So Mario Torero and Sarah Bella Mondragon. Mario Torero is an artist and activist, most known over the last 50 years for an extensive body of socially conscious mural work produced in different cities throughout the United States and around the world. His approach to co-creating artworks in the neighborhoods and spaces where he is invited help manifest a reflective common vision of an identity brewing below the surface of the concrete. Sarah Bella Mondragon is a multimedia artist, activist, and digital storyteller. She is the artistic instigator behind the Barrio Arts Coalition, whose mission is to sponsor events, festivals, and exchanges between arts and culture organizations, whose stages are street corners. And so the project that Mario and Sarah are working on is called Toltec Totems for Balboa Park. It is a sculptural project inspired by the history of Chicano arts movement and activism in San Diego. Coinciding with the Centro Cultural de la Raza's 50th anniversary, the hope is that these totems act as a metaphorical and literal bridges to the Centro environment, so that an appreciation for the predominantly San Diego-based Chicano artists that are featured on the totems can expand locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. And incidentally, this is planned for multiple locations in Balboa Park. Next slide, please. And Laura, if you could click to start the video playing, if that's going to work for us. So there we go. So Timothy Murdoch's project is called Walking the Wall, anticipated for North Park Community Park, Balboa Park, and Fault Line Park in East Village. Timothy Murdoch is an artist whose works range from hand-carved recycled polyethylene, gas pipe to site-specific and kinetic installations. With a focus on repurposed material, Tim's work explores the meaning of the quote-unquote stuff in this world, whether it be man-made or natural. Walking the Wall is a performative, participatory artwork which speaks to the mutable character of borders, walls, and the ownership of space through a gesture of invitation and collaboration. The artwork takes the form of a dancing wall of boxes staged on shipping pallets, which dancers will move by building and unbuilding through their choreography. So in this case, the performers are more sort of construction workers, but they will be replaced with choreographed dancers in the iterations for Park Social. Moving on to District 4. The artist working in District 4 is the artist collective Brian and Ryan. So Brian Black and Ryan Bullis, otherwise known as Brian and Ryan, and Mario Mesquita. Next slide, please. Brian and Ryan are a collaborative duo whose often humorous work spans performance, sculpture, installation, and public interventions. Their installation-based work is site-specific and focuses on engaging with the audience with familiar forms while altering components of the space in an inquisitive and playful manner, leading viewers to new discoveries about the space. The Park Social at Chollas Lake is a multi-phase project that celebrates park-goers' collective experiences, both real and imagined. And Chollas Lake Park itself has a living character in a narrative that is both humorous and playful. The project will consist of various sculptural interventions and performances in the park and will culminate in an ice cream social reception and publication and an installation of billboard-like 12-foot by 8-foot banners in the lake itself, depicting documentation of the interventions. Next slide, please. Mario Mesquita. Mario Mesquita is an interdisciplinary, socially engaged artist based in Southern California. His work examines relationships, identity, knowledge sharing, and the social boundaries created within the context of community spectrums through social practices, dialogue, and visual representation. Paletas Communal Social Club, anticipated for Market Creek Canyon and Mountain View, Bay Terraces Park in Bay Terraces, and Paradise Hills Community Park, strives to bridge communities in District 4 together through a series of public park social interventions. Facing the future and reflecting on the past 2 years, we have all experienced a communal moment of national and global economic upheaval, social reckoning, and that of surviving and thriving under a pandemic. Paletas provides an opportunity for community members to share their reflections on the past year and a half, listen to others, and figure out how to look towards the future as members of various intersecting communities. Mesquitas gathers these expressions through mini interviews and questionnaires given over the Paletas mobile lab in exchange for popsicles. And the project will end with a large event where the reflections are shared. District 5. We have the artist team, Beck Haberstroh and Katie Giritlian, and the artist Keenan Hartsten. Next slide, please. So Beck Haberstroh and Katie Giritlian's project is called Floating Photo Studio, anticipated for Hilltop Community Park in Rancho Penasquitos. Beck Haberstroh and Katie Giritlian are co-founders of Rehearsal, a residency for experimentation and social context. Haberstroh is an interdisciplinary artist, writer, collaborator, and facilitator. Katie Giritlian is an artist and arts worker based in New York. Her research focuses on Southwest Asian and North African photo studio practices established in homelands as well as of diaspora. Floating Photo Studios is a community photo lab wherein parkgoers can fly kite pinhole cameras that capture images of the surrounding and the sky above. The use of kites allows for a familiar gesture to serve as an entry point to begin a rich dialogue with parkgoers. The intention is to work with photography, a medium entangled in systems of oppression, to reconfigure the photographic medium towards community and care. In addition to the kites, there will also be props placed around the park to enhance the user's experience. These will include liberatory signage and other large texts. The photos that the park goers will take will be printed and displayed on fabric-based installations at the park. Keenan Hartsten, his project is the Honeycomb Harmonies, anticipated for 6 parks throughout District 5. I'll spare you reading through those, but Keenan is an artist, musician, and designer. Utilizing concepts, forms, and techniques across a spectrum of disciplines, Hartsten creates playful installations, objects, gardens, and collaborative community-based projects that often focus on materiality of discarded objects and reimagines worlds of texture, color, and sound that offer new temporal perspectives. Honeycomb Harmonies is a sculptural intervention that takes the form of a musical playground. Using hexagons as a framing tool and homage to bee colonies, the Honeycomb Harmonies are a series of hopeful experiments in determinacy, indeterminacy, creativity, joy, and collective expression. It looks to the collective action of bees as a model of the unity required at this moment in human history. Only by individuals working together in harmony can we create the shapes and patterns which promote life. Next slide, please. So we have in District 6, we have Zaquia Mahler-Salinas with Disco Riot and Allison Weiss. Zaquia's project with Disco Riot is called Choreo and Blank, planned for the Hickman Athletic Fields in Kearney Mesa. And feel free to turn down the nobody else can hear the sound, Laura, only you can. So feel free to mute it. But Choreo and Blank is our Disco Riot's mission is to grow social consciousness and connection through collaborative, thought-provoking, movement-based arts in San Diego. Founder Zaquia Mahler-Salinas is a performer, dance maker, and teacher. Choreo and Blank is a socially specific, site-informed, interactive, participatory dance performance where audience participants engage in activity between short dance performances by local artists. And the video you can see here is of an iteration of this project at Skate World in Linda Vista, I believe. On the park fields, audience participants will explore soccer and baseball related activities while watching dances crafted around the themes of the park space, community, and team support. This collaboration of live performance, music, and team-based physical activity emphasizes the place of art embodiment and collaboration at the forefront of creating community building. Next slide, please, Laura. So Allison Weiss. One second here, it's out of order in my notes. Allison Weiss's project is called Reading to Strangers, anticipated for Canyonside Community Park, Canyon Hills Open Space in Mira Mesa, and Mira Mesa Community Park. Allison is an interdisciplinary artist who makes sculptures, installations, and sound works, performances, and architectural interventions. Reading to Strangers is a series of 3 performative events in which marathon readings of novels to live audiences are held in city parks and open spaces. The heart of the work is the act of reading and listening in person over real time in shared spaces and community in order to build shared meanings across subjectivities, time, space, and cultures. Next slide, please. So for Council District 7, we have the artist team, Kline Swonger and Casey Munoz, and the artist Brian Goltzenleiter. So next slide, please. Kline Swonger and Casey Munoz is Casey Munoz's project. The title is currently in development, but it is planned for John Baca Park in Linda Vista. Kline Swonger is a San Diego-based artist who explores concepts of the in-between, lost place and perception in her work. Light, shadow, and materials representative of both urban and natural landscapes are incorporated into her work, allowing for moments of reflection and pause. Casey Munoz has cultivated a career path focused on activating people, activating spaces, and activating change. Casey focuses her efforts on building healthy communities and engaging with her clients to bring their vision to reality. She thrives on collaboration and enjoys working with artists, designers, makers, activists, and forward thinkers. So the project is intended to foster a sense of play, connection, and awareness of place through formal and metaphorical qualities of line within John Baca Neighborhood Park. A one-day event will be planned that will include all-inclusive activities that connect participants through 3 different series of explorations and engagements. These include a free parts play activity, dance games, and community weaving and reflection activity. The activities and interactions will be photo and video documented and posted on a website. Participants will be asked to bring a piece of fabric to the event, which will be woven or quilted together and incorporated into a final installation, which will be in situ at the park for a period of months, and will be hung in the trees throughout the park. And the project also draws its inspiration from the piece that is currently in the Civic Art Collection, Ground Line, in existence at the park now. Next slide, please. Brian Goltzenleiter, whose project is called The Olfactory Present by Means of Smoke, anticipated for Linda Vista Community Park in Linda Vista. So Brian Goltzenleiter is an artist, writer, and educator whose work investigates the use value of art and the role of art institutions in shaping of the social sphere. The Olfactory Present by Means of Smoke is a sensory-based, socially engaged artwork that attempts to raise awareness and stimulate dialogue around cultural difference by means of olfactory and gustatory traditions. The project takes the form of an interactive cookout, which will showcase the diversity of culinary traditions within the community. And the dishes in the cookout will be developed in collaboration with community members solicited to participate. And so moving on to Council District 8, we have the artist team Ingram Ober and Marisol Rendon, and the artist team Yvette Roman and Shayna Ray Dowling. Next slide, please. So Ingram Ober and Marisol Rendon's project, A Nest in the Sagebrush and Others. They have a title for every performance, so too many to list here. But during the last 14 years, Ingram Ober and Marisol Rendon have collaborated on projects in public art, museum exhibitions, social and civic events, and have participated in art and aesthetics discussions. Their work is participatory, interactive, and often employs sculptural provocations. Their project has 3 phases, each expressed through unique appearances and interventions. As a whole, the project is about exploration, information, and outreach. The artist will hold a workshop, create and document often ephemeral, site-specific sculptural interventions both on and adjacent to and off the beaten path within the confines of the Otay Valley Regional Park. And the project will culminate with an appearance or exhibition to be held at the Beyer Boulevard Ranger Station in Otay Valley Regional Park. So Yvette Roman and Shayna Ray Dowling, whose project is called Collective Memory for San Isidro Community Park in San Isidro. Shayna Ray Dowling and Yvette Roman formed a collaborative in 2016 and have worked together on several projects, including murals, curation, live performances, facilitating community circles, and public art installations. The collective serves the community by offering free and accessible art in the form of art classes, public art, and performances. Their work centers on trauma-informed care and restorative practices. Collective Memory is a temporary event-based installation that recreates a sunny afternoon picnic. During the event, the community is invited to picnic, socialize, and enjoy the park while they share their stories and process shared experiences. The public is invited to sit on the blankets and walk in and out of the central dome structure, the Memory Dome. Picnic blankets created with clothing from the community members collected prior to the community workshops are laid out in a circular formation around the dome. The park and picnic blankets provide an open space for socializing within the Memory Dome, are memories and stories gathered from the community in prior workshops. Next slide, please. So we are on to District 9, and the artists working in District 9 are Trevor Amory and Armando de la Torre. Next slide, please. Trevor Amory's project, Barely Touching, is anticipated for Kensington Park in Kensington. Trevor creates sculptures and installations that attempt to embody narratives of discovery, distance, love, and failure through found, sourced, and fabricated objects. Trevor received his BFA from Maryland Institute College of Art and College of Art, MFA from UC San Diego, and attended Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture in 2013. Barely Touching is a high-touch interactive sculptural installation that invites parkgoers to come together to make rubbing drawings. The project consists of a primary ocean-inspired platform, as well as additional surrounding rocks, or quote-unquote rocks carved from wood that have plant illustrations carved across their surfaces. The work is inspired by San Diego geologic elements of change, like erosion, and the ocean and its ecosystems. Participants are invited to create their own drawings by laying paper across the carvings to make rubbings from with crayons. The sculpture becomes a meeting point, a stage, and places for people to come together, create, and play. And next slide, please. And just finding my notes here. So Armando de la Torre, the title for his project is in development, anticipated for the Southcrest Community Park in Southcrest. De la Torre finds inspiration for his art throughout San Diego. He is interested in environmental justice, indigenous rights, local and California history, and cinema. De la Torre's project is a day-long community art event with a theme of food sovereignty as well as environmental and social justice at the Southcrest Recreation Center and Community Park, which is an area that has been historically ignored and underserved in terms of resources. A land acknowledgement and cultural ceremony will open the event for people to wander around, engage with art activities, catch sideshow performances, and be wowed by stilt walkers and giant puppets. The project's purpose is to acknowledge the land we live in and learn better stewardship of it. Next slide. So thank you for listening to that overview. That sums up all of the projects we are anticipating for and by the way, we anticipate to announce the project in early winter of 2022, and these projects will begin rolling out in the spring of 2022. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I have a question actually. What type of follow-up are we looking at with respect to the artist's follow-up and fabrication? Because I recall in the last meeting, we actually had some of the artists bring their presentations to us. And I know this committee had some questions, like for example, on Honeycomb Harmonies. I recall the committee having questions about the tires because they're interactive and children will play with them. And there were concerns about potential toxic compounds in tires. And the artist said, oh, I'll look into it. But what type of follow-up is there to ensure that they are looking into that and those issues are addressed?
So the artists are in various stages of development of the project, including developing the final proposal, in which we are verifying, or staff is verifying, that the comments from the Public Art Committee are acknowledged and that any issues brought up have been addressed. And that's being reviewed by staff. And until we find it satisfactory that the issues that have been brought up and addressed, we'll only be issuing notices to proceed further once we find it satisfactory that those issues have been addressed. So that is being looked into by staff. The artists are required in their final artwork proposals to list and acknowledge all of the comments brought up by the Public Art Committee.
That was a perfect answer to my question. So thank you, Chuck.
Certainly.
Does anyone else have any questions?
It looks like Tiffany and Larry are in the chat.
Okay, Tiffany Wying Perez. Sorry, Perez.
Thank you. You can just call me Tiffany Barris.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this is such an amazing group of artists, and I just wanted to first thank all of you at the, the city, managing the city municipal collection. This is just a wonderful opportunity for the whole San Diego community to come together and, I really activate our parks. I was just curious on your side, what's going to be done to actively promote these events as they occur, because so many of them are, time and date specific, especially the performance pieces. So, I really want to make sure that the public at large can participate. And so I just was curious what's going on the city side to make sure that that the events are well attended.
So I can maybe answer that question. So while there's, we're drilling down today a little bit project per project, the city is really kind of looking at this on more of a larger level in terms of the initiative as a whole. So we're working right now on developing a large scale kind of marketing communication plan around the whole initiative. So based on a local, as well as we're going to be looking at a national level in terms of our communications. We are also going to have a dedicated website that's in development, which will house all these projects, as well as a master communication event calendar. So we anticipate developing and rolling out a pretty robust communication plan around the initiative as a whole, and which will obviously drill down into like when a specific project event's happening and also location information. So there'll be some maps to visualize that too. So it'll have project descriptions, imagery, biography, information about the artist. So it'll be a really great tool for us to then really start using that to promote and get the word out about the initiative as a whole, and then the individual projects themselves.
Yes, that's wonderful. And I'm really happy to hear that you're thinking about this on a national level.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Christine. Larry? We can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Thanks. I actually had the same question as Tiffany, but I'm thinking about how you promote these wonderful projects, which we were fortunate to hear and meet many of the artists at the local level or the community level. So it occurs to me that one often uses like the community planning groups, but they tend to be generally an older demographic. So how do you get to the young people? I'm thinking that maybe a good way to think is maybe through schools, universities, community colleges, but also obviously social media. So I'm wondering if anyone in the staff is going to, maybe try to use social media and other mechanisms to reach young people in all of these districts.
So I'll answer, maybe I can speak to that too. So yes, as part of our marketing communication plan, we're certainly going to be looking at different social media channels and exploring how to best utilize those. I would just add that in addition to general promotion and getting the word out, both on a local and national level, there is a lot of grassroots stuff happening, right? So the artists themselves are cultivating a lot of those more community kind of connections and engagement. We'll also probably do things just like flyers in the neighborhood. So we're looking at different kind of levels of getting the word out, which will be much more community focused and centered, the people that actually use those parks versus more of a general art audience or a general audience in general. So I think there's different tiers, and we're kind of thinking through all of those in order to kind of map out our communication plan.
I'll also add that some of the artists have their projects involve a specific engagement component. So it is part of it's intrinsic to the art in a number of the projects as well. So.
Thank you.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
I'm having trouble with my speak thing. I'm not unable to type my name into speak.
Please speak.
It's not all that earth shaking, but I wanted to share with you, and I'm having a senior moment, but the artist that's going to be putting up the mirrored sculpture in the park, at the Ellen Browning Scripps Park, reached out to me. I had sent her a comment, and I'm meeting with her next week, and I'm very excited about consulting with her on the light situation. that there is no light at night for her beautiful project. And I'm very excited about that. And also, I'm going to be working on some PR here on my end, letting our neighborhood and community know when this sculpture is put up, and if there's some way we can acknowledge it and have a community meeting at the opening. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Schomburn. Anyone else? No? Okay, well, this is a very exciting program and project. I can't wait to see all the installations and art pieces next year. And Chuck, thank you for the presentation. I will now ask for any public comment. Chuck, please read any public comment for this item that was submitted in writing and call on any attendees who would like to provide comment for this item.
Thank you, Commissioner Wooper. No comments submitted in writing. And it looks like no members of the public in attendance. So back to you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to move on to agenda item number 6, reports, subsection A, staff reports. I'd like to call on Christine Jones to provide the staff report.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Wooper. So we just have a brief update for you today on SD practice. So SD practice probably needs no introduction for this public art committee. So as you recall, the exhibition ended, the special exhibition ended like in the end of the summer. Since then, staff have been really pounding the pavement all throughout the city, really working and looking at city buildings, libraries, civic spaces that can house these artworks, along with other works in the city's civic art collection. So we're currently in progress of slowly installing these in city buildings across the city. So you'll see here that there's some recently works that were installed in, I think this is the Mission Valley Library. So as we start to progress, we're starting to move and place these artworks in city facilities that is being visualized on a website. So I'll share that link again. As you remember, we created a kind of a SD practice feature about the initiative as a whole, which has artist information, artwork information, and then a map that will really start to visualize and show how these move around the city. So this is a work in progress. As you can imagine, with 100 works by 89 artists, this does take time, but it is underway and something that we're working on pretty much daily at the city. So with that really concludes our updates for you today.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Are there any committee member reports? If so, please type speak in the chat box and I will call you in order. Anyone? No? Okay. Finally, Chuck, please read any public comment for this item that was submitted in writing and call on any attendees who would like to provide comment for this item.
Thank you, Commissioner Wooper. No comments submitted in writing and no one from the public currently in attendance.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, committee members. A reminder that our next Public Art Committee meeting will convene on Friday, January 7th. Wishing everyone a happy holiday and new year. This meeting is adjourned at 10:37 a.m.
Thanks, everyone. Happy holidays.
Have a great
Happy
weekend.
holidays.
Happy
Thanks
holidays.
all. Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Hey, Chuck.
Be safe.
Yes.
So I just wanted to let you know, since I have you on here, I won't be able to attend the January 7th